It's just really trying to present a little project, which I've been going for some while now, about what I wanted to do is find a really easy way to share a USB drive. Now, you guys are techie, so you all know there's lots of ways you can share a USB drive with a Raspberry Pi. So Samba is a great favorite. It's free, it's open source, and you can load it up on the Raspberry Pi and you can share a USB drive. Same thing. Open Media Vaults is and FreeNAS are great products. Again, we can use those on the Raspberry Pi. I haven't tried them, but I've certainly found that you can do that. What I was trying to do is get something that would simply work out the box. So by that, I mean something where I could just download something for my Raspberry Pi and plug in a USB drive and it would work. So I'm going to show you how I've done this. I'm going to introduce you to what do we call Muck, my USB cloud, and Mud, my USB drive. So I've got Mud and Muck here. So to explain how it works, I'm going to open my browser to myusbcloud.com. And so this is a site I put together basically to share this free image of how to share very easily a USB drive over your network. So I've tried to make it as simple as possible. So you download the image, it's a zipped image, you extract it to a USB card, and you take the USB card, you plug it into your Raspberry Pi, turn it on, and it's done. Okay, so so the question is, how do I do this? So rather than lots and lots of slides, I'm actually going to give you a live demo of how this works. So I'm on my USB cloud, and I'm going to click on download the free USB drive. I'm going to put in my email address, paul.clark@btinternet.com. And yeah, please guys, oh, I can't spell. Yeah, thank you. Someone's watching. Oh, that's different keyboard. My keyboard switched. Okay, at btinternet.com. Yeah, for some reason my btinternet.com. Right. Doesn't look right. Hang on. btinternet.com. Right. So you all know my email address now. If you want to get in touch, please feel free. So what it does, it will actually email me a link. The reason for this is we're trying to find people who are interested, and it says here we'll keep you informed of any updates and send out newsletters as well. So trying to find out if there's an interest for this, and if there is, then we can take it forwards. But right, the next thing that happens is you get a download link. I mean, I should get a new one as well. Oh, there we go. That's the one I've just sent. And you click on this and it downloads the file to your drive. So my USB drive, version 4, played around with it for a bit. So it's now at version 4. So let's see how that works. If I just waiting for this, I can wait for this download to finish, or I've got one I got earlier as well. So you download a zip drive, a zip file. So and the instructions on the website. The idea is this is what's in the zip file, and you extract it to. I've got a blank SD card plugged into my laptop, so I'm just going to extract to the SD card. I won't bore you watching. You all know how zip works, or how the WinZip works. So basically, I just copy the drive, the file to the USB drive, and when it's finished, all you have to do is unplug it from your computer and plug it into your the Raspberry Pi. So I've got a little video I did earlier, well, quite a bit earlier actually. So here I'm just putting the SD card in and turn on the Raspberry Pi. So I don't know if anyone's come across the self-expanding files or self-installing file, whatever you call it. They're called NUBs, New Out of the Box System, I think it stands for. So when you put in a NUBs file system into Raspberry Pi, it does a self-extract and installation of the operating system. So it creates the partitions that you need. So it creates a FAT32 partitions for the boots, and it creates an ext partition for the program. So I sped it up, as you probably saw. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how how fast your SD card is. So it does extraction, and at the end it reboots. You end up with this login screen. So in true Blue Peter style, I've got one I did earlier. So let's go back to my presentation. So what I wanted to achieve was no configuration required. So you just put in a disk, your SD card, plug in any USB drive. You don't need to format it. You don't need to lose everything you had on your SD card in order to get this work. If you're running with Samba, you're running with the other programs, usually they're asking you to format the drive before you connect it. In this case, you don't need to. It works with FAT, NTFS, ext drives. I've tested it on Mac drives as well, Mac formats, which are ext, aren't they? And it works no matter what the drive is. It's free and it works out the box. So I'm actually going to do a live demo in a minute, but for those who are interested, please go to myusbcloud.com. I'll show you that again in a second. myusbcloud.com, download your free copy, burn it onto an SD card and plug it in. So this is a picture of my desk tonight. It's Raspberry Pi 3 or 3B, can't remember. I've tested this with Raspberry Pi 1. Yes, it works with Raspberry Pi 1, Raspberry Pi 2. I think there's a 2B, but I had a 2, which I got off, managed to get hold of. It works on a 3, a 3B, and a 4. So I think this one here running tonight is 3 or 3B. And just to recap, go to myusbcloud.com and you can get your free download. So what does this give you? So if you go to, it's called My USB Drive, yeah. And it will do self-discovery over the network, so that you don't have to, you don't have to put in an IP address or anything like that. It doesn't care about the IP address. Just type in //mud. That's its default name. You can change it, of course. And it shares a folder called USB drive, and in there is the contents of my USB drive. So I wanted to have a look at my iTunes folder, which is on that drive. As simple as that. So I'm sure you've got some questions about lots of things about it, but really the whole point of this demonstration was to show you guys that it's really, really, really easy to set up. So I'm going to ask, has anyone got any questions for that for now anyway?
So can each Pi handle more than one drive, or one drive per Pi?
Right, the way I've set it up is that it was, because every drive has a unique ID. And because of that, you can set up for multiple drives, but what I'm looking for is a generic drive. And so at the moment, this image is just for a single drive. What I will do is publish on my USB cloud the details of how you can connect multiple drives. The way to connect more than one drive is you have to actually now go and say, this is drive 1, this is drive 2, and give it a drive ID. I wanted it to be completely generic and not really care about the drive IDs or not ask any input from the users. So that's why at the moment you can only connect one drive. But yeah, no problem about connecting other drives. There's a bit of Python that runs on the Raspberry Pi, which basically goes and looks for an external drive, looks up the ID of that drive, and then maps that drive to that USB folder. But it'd be simple actually, just to, once you know the ID, you can set the ID to that and then get the program to find another one. So that will be coming. You can change the name. If you guys, obviously, you know, you could go into Raspberry config and set the name, the network name, and then you can browse to, you know, another Raspberry Pi. As you'd expect, I've got several on here. I've got one called Mud2. Not very inventive on the names, but on there I'm sharing lots of videos. And I use it, been ripping lots of movies to, I've got lots of DVDs, you know, basically Disney and what have you. Ripping the movies, stick them in the movies folder and set them up to Kodi. If you know Kodi, it's a media manager or media player. I can use it, I can point it to these folders, and then I can play the contents of, you know, I can play the contents of the movies on, well, throughout the house. In fact, we've got 4 Raspberry Pis all running Kodi, all pointing to the same drive. Yeah, and as far as, yeah, it's fairly straightforward. Any other questions? I'm sure they are.
There's a question in the chat. Just
all right, let's see if we can have a look at the chat.
sort of William, if you want to.
Yeah, and I can't get to the chat for some reason.
Yeah, the question is from William. It says, once the OS has extracted on the SD card, can you pop the same card into another Raspberry Pi and expect it to work?
Yes, yes, you will.
I guess that's true of any version of the Pi, I guess so.
Any version of Pi, yeah. Yeah, you can just pop it into another one. Change the name to something else before you put it into another one, because, you know, if you make 2 copies of Mud on the same network, it's not going to work. So what I've done is I've got 3 running here. I've got a backup, I've got Mud2, and I've got my development one called Mud. Just rename them and then reboot them, and it will pick up the new name on the network.
Just any important differences in the different versions of Pi and how it handles the streaming?
Yes, there were some changes. When the Pi 4 came out, there was a different version of Raspberry, which was backward compatible with the early Pis. But the existing Raspberry version 3, when I started it, wouldn't work on version 4. But now on the version 4 that we've got for Mud, the one that latest one you download, then that works across all versions of Pi. You can you still see my screen, by the way? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Running on Pi, we've also got Webmin. So if I go to HTTPS web mud, yeah, because that's the name, and then 10,000, which is the default port for Webmin. Webmin is a web administration module where if you can go and you can go and make changes and updates to your system as well. So that's also running on the Mud. for techie people, they can go in. You can go have a look at the the settings which have been set up for the sharing and all that sort of stuff. I can't remember where it is, but we've got Samba installed, we've got SSH installed, and you can actually, not sure where it is, but you can go and change the settings on Samba, for example. Okay, and here, of course.
There was a question that I had. Indeed, there seems to be no form of security.
That's
Anyone
right.
on the network can access your drive. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
That's the whole easy peasy.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the problem. You know, if you're going to make it work out the box, it's got to be open. So what you can do is you can go into Samba here, into your USB drive, and you can then turn on your security and access control. You can say who gets access to, well, you have to create users. And once you've created users, you can say who gets access to what files or what folders on your drive, etc. But yeah, as you say, for it to be generic, it's got to be open.
True.
Yeah. What I'm hoping to do, if there is if people like it and they start wanting to use it, then I'm hoping to be able to set up a reverse proxy on the Pi, which would mean you'd be able to log in to my USB cloud with your own account and register your Raspberry Pi. That's something that you could do yourself. Each Raspberry Pi is going to generate a unique ID, and then that belongs to your account. And then you'll be able to list the files on your Raspberry Pi and potentially stream them. It depends on your upload speeds, of course. But what I've done so far is just basically a design concept to see if people would be interested. We've got probably not quite 100, something like 80 downloads already, but I haven't been advertising it. If you guys think it's a good idea, then I'll move it forwards. And on my USB cloud, we've got a page called Silver Lining, where we're going to put lots of stuff about, what else can you do? How can you, excuse me, what else can you do? What else can you use it for, etc., and try and get some ideas. So if you're interested, go to my USB cloud, and then you can have a play with it.
Excellent, Paul. Really like it. I already got ideas to use that in my CCTV systems. Well done.
Yeah, it's just the whole idea is it's got to be easy. Just download it, extract it, plug it in.
Yeah.
And, okay, it's open. Yeah, okay, we got that. But these are limitations that anybody going to the site will understand. It's open, anyone can browse to it, fine. But as I said, you can go into a Webmin and you can start creating users and create a share. There's some other bits as well that have been added since. If I just go to, well, I don't have to show you, but built into the Python, there's a fan speed controller. So it will turn on a fan depending on the CPU speed. Also built into it is an LED and a switch. Now, the idea of the LED, it actually flashes like a heartbeat, using pulse width modulation. It's a bit of fun. Anyway, flashes an LED, but it's also a switch. And the reason I've got a switch on there is that I wanted to be able to shut it down gracefully, not without pulling the plug. So if you hold the switch in for 6 seconds, it then disconnects the drive, spins down the drive, and then switches itself off, so that you're not going to just start switching the thing off in the middle of a file access. So there's lots of extras built into it. I can put some circuit diagrams up for you guys if you want to play with the switch. but you've probably seen on my little videos, there's that little flashing LED, which just tells me that it's working, and looks quite pretty because I've got a couple of them in the cupboard under the stairs, and they sit there flashing away. Okay.
Cool. Any other questions? No. Okay.
No. Okay. So
Thanks very much, Paul.
I was just going to ask, actually, when you're extracting the files onto the SD card, what makes it actually bootable? Because by default, if you just format a disk, it wouldn't normally be bootable.
Yeah. So as I showed you earlier, I've done an extra. This is the files I've extracted to the blank drive, and if you have a look at your Raspberry Pi, it's got a FAT32 partition, which, you know, if you just stick the drive in, you'll be able to see these files here, and these are the drives that are used to actually boot it.
So, sorry, is this just literally a blank SD card, or is this
literally a blank SD card?
So you formatted it with FAT32 and it's actually bootable?
No. You format it, it's got nothing on it, and then you get your image. No, it's not bootable, you're quite right. You get your image, the USB drive, and what you do is you extract these files to your blank USB drive.
Yeah, but I mean, as standard, normally the boot sector needs setting to something to be bootable, doesn't it?
Yeah. What I've actually used the system that's been developed by Raspberry called Noobs, and there's quite a lot of documentation on there to tell you how to create a bootable drive. And well, you got to give it a try. But if you actually just extract these to your USB drive and plug it in, it will boot.
Right. Okay. That's really cool.
The Raspberry Pi doesn't have a BIOS like a PC might have. There's no UEFI, there's no BIOS. So there's some built-in flash which knows how to talk to the SD drive and load the files from that and boot up. So it doesn't have a boot sector like you might expect on an old DOS machine.
Or on a modern PC.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll show you that video again.
No, I mean it made sense. I saw the I saw what you did. It was just a case of I didn't understand how it was doing the boot, but now you've said it's got this special bit. It makes sense.
Yeah. So it's well documented by Raspberry org how to create Noobs images, and if you can see in the video there, it's actually creating a FAT partition, extracting a file, creates the ext partitions, puts all the program files in the ext partitions, and while it's running through, you can display these images as well to let users know what's happening. One thing I have found that's worth noting: don't use Kingston USB drives. I just had loads and loads of problems with Kingston drives, and what I ended up contacting Kingston UK, and I've got an email which I can share with you guys, and they're saying their SD cards are not compatible with Raspberry Pi, which is really surprising because when you go online to Amazon and order Raspberry Pi, one of the suggested things is a Kingston USB drive. So I flagged that to Amazon as well. But yeah, it's up to people to don't use Kingston drives. Use a fast SD card if you can. Right, that's me done, by the way. So if there's no more questions.
Yeah, how do you, as far as I can see, that is a Wi-Fi configured device?
Yeah, you can Wi-Fi to it. I've found, so you go, you'd have to, connect your display and keyboard to the Raspberry Pi, go into Raspberry Config or SSH into it, and then you can set up your Wi-Fi. As far as sharing it over the network, it's fine. But as far as streaming to Kodi, for example, for media player, I found it's not as good in a lot of cases. It just, the speed of Wi-Fi wasn't as good as the network speed.
Basically, you can't do a headless setup for Wi-Fi,
No, well, I basically haven't configured Wi-Fi on it. If you want to set up Wi-Fi, then you can go and run Raspberry config and set up your Wi-Fi, and then you don't have to have it connected to the network. Do you know what I mean by Raspberry config? I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Paul.
Yep.
It's amazing
Okay.
how easy you made it.
Easy. Hard. It's hard to make things easy, actually.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah. So if you want to get in touch, paul.clark with no E at btinternet.com, or just contact me via my USB cloud. There's a contact us page on there. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.